There's plenty of space if you want to come in. Come on, come on. It's free entry. There's no special ticket price. Come on if you want to come in. Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you for turning the music down. My name is Simon Chadwick. I am a visiting professor at Evosport. I'm joined by two guests, and I'll talk about these two guests in just a moment, or more to the point, they will talk about themselves in just a moment. But this is the panel, Unlocking Commercial Value, Moving from Sponsorship to Partnership in the African Continent. I think we can probably extend this out from sponsorship to look at commercial partnerships more generally, because we've got two really interesting people here with us. But just by way of a start, I, as an academic, I wrote my PhD thesis on sports sponsorship. And so this means that last night, when I should have been watching a great game between Arsenal and Real Madrid, I won't mention that, Marianne, any more than that. Instead of watching the game, what I was noticing is that Emirates scored twice last night, because, of course, Emirates was a shirt sponsor of Arsenal. Emirates also a shirt sponsor of Real Madrid. Don't worry for any Qataris in the room or anybody associated with Qatar, because Qatar will score twice tonight. Because obviously Qatar Airways is a shirt sponsor at PSG, but obviously Qatar Airways is also a sponsor of UEFA Champions League. Now, the reason that I mention this specifically is because I think the sponsorship deals, both Qatar Airways and Emirates Airlines, demonstrate the power of sponsorship. The Emirates deal with Arsenal is nearly 20 years old. And as many of you will know, this is not just about selling seats on planes and competing in the airline business. Effectively, Dubai tourism has been built on the back of Emirates Airlines and their many sponsorships, not just their sponsorships in football. But I think also what we know is that the perceptions that many of us now have of places like Dubai and Qatar have been shaped by sports sponsorships and the properties with which these organizations are associated with. Now, I know this is a very specific case. The Gulf nations have huge wealth. These are state-owned airlines. But nevertheless, I think they do serve to illustrate that within a very short space of time, sponsorships can have an impact in lots of different ways. And so hopefully what we can do during this session now is to talk a little bit more about not just those sponsorships, but I guess much more importantly in the context of this event, how can Africa follow the lead of regions like the Gulf, but I think also drawing lessons too from what we've seen in the past, American deals, sponsorships in Europe and so forth. But also what I hope we will get out of today is to highlight some of the distinctive assets that African nations have, some of the interesting developments that we're already seeing, and what role that sponsorship can play in the future of African football, and indeed in African sport more generally. So, I'm an academic, I monologue. This is my job, it's my job. So I'll try not to monologue too much and ask firstly Davide from Benfica to introduce yourself, say a little bit about what you do in your work. I guess many people know Benfica, but if you want to say a little more about Benfica, you can.
Okay, so good morning everyone. So my name is Davide Gomes, I'm the International Technical Coordinator. Benfica is also sponsored by Emirates, so good. So I'm responsible for all the international projects that we are doing abroad. I have nothing to do with commercial, so sorry, disclaimer already. But I'm always traveling with my friend from Benfica, Miguel. He's the commercial guy. I was supposed to be on another panel, but I'm here today. And because like a good coach, we need to adapt like the player, so I can speak everything you wish about commercial sides and the strategies that we are doing to change a little bit the perception of not being just a sponsorship but a partner. And this is what we are trying to do with Benfica, not only in Africa, because we're doing a lot of projects in Africa that I will explain you later, but also all over the world. And the perception that we want to do the brands to be part of the game and really changing the life of players. Not only, like you were saying, selling seats on the plane, we don't want to sell jerseys at Benfica. So we want to develop players, we want to find players. This is our core business. Of course, we need sponsors, everybody needs them, but our core business is that. So I'm here, very happy to be here. Thank you, and I'll be glad after to speak more.
It's great to have you here. And Amr?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Hopefully we'll have a great session today. And thank you, Davide and Simon, for the introduction. My name is Amr Elrawi. I have 26 years of corporate experience. I worked across 5 different industries. I worked for Vodafone for 10 years. I worked for Cisco. I was leading the London 2012 sponsorship. After that, I joined Barclays in financial services. And then after that, I joined Spurs. Are any Spurs fans in the room? Arsenal. Now I made some friends.
It's not a good morning to be a Spurs fan, is it?
It's not a good time. And for my sins, I support Man United. So it's just not a great time for me at footballing at all. So I worked for Spurs as the head of fan engagement during the time when they were building the new stadium. And after that, I joined Oracle. Hopefully many of you right now knows Oracle, and if you one of the things that I was managing at Oracle is heading up the sports industry. So I did the deal with the Premier League, all the data and the stats that you see on the broadcast. This is my team have done. Equal as well, we work with in the F1 with Red Bull Racing, with SailGP, and many others. And last year I've found that there is a great opportunity, and I think the last panel was talking about the power of data and technology and AI, and I have made a very crazy and bold decision to start up my own company, Game Changers. So I'm the founder and CEO of Game Changers. I took all that knowledge and hopefully putting it into Game Changers and to transform sports. And the reason and the vision of what we do is that we believe the way sports are played and consumed 10 years ago is totally different than what it is today, and mainly driven by data and technology. And it will going to be different 5 years from now. And again, it will going to be because of data and technology, because the change is exponential. I love the fact that we got Simon, who is like the academic and give us the academic structure. We got Davide, who's kind of perhaps representing the customer of what we do. And maybe I can share a little bit of my insights being on the right holder side, being in the sponsor side, and now in the service provider side. So sorry for the long introduction, but I thought that will give a little bit of context in terms of what we can discuss in the panel today.
Okay, great, thank you. Just to say that as we go through the panel, if there are any really burning questions, because we are only 3 instead of a much bigger panel, if you stick your hand up, we can make some time, I think, to ask questions as we go through. If you one already, okay.
It's quite a special question for David, as I am Moroccan from here, but I'm living in Lisbon, so okay. I know much more about Benfica and sport. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Walid. I'm from Morocco, but I live in Lisbon for quite some time now. It's 8 years, and I'm following football, of course, because I was a semi-professional football player in Portugal. Played for quite some teams over there. A few of them now involved to become professional teams. One of them is Aves, and the other one is Casapia as well. So I had the pleasure to know football from all stages in Portugal. And I see that there is a stagnation in helping other teams than Benfica become great teams as well. Because they have talents, they have many players. And my question is, how could the sponsorship help these teams as well get better and hopefully get much more recognition in the world as well?
Can I just say publicly, if we try and keep our questions restricted to Africa specifically, but because I'm a nice guy and I like you, I'll let David answer that one in a Portuguese context.
I can change it to one that goes for Africa, is for how can clubs in Morocco get the real recognition in sponsorship? Because they have, for example, Wydad and Raja Casablanca, they have a huge fan base. How could they leverage that to have great deals in sponsorship?
Okay, so I think that's the trick, okay? So in Portugal, we are speaking a lot now about the TV rights. It's the biggest fight now going to have, because Benfica alone is more valuable than all the other ones together. And why is that? Because the fan base. So we are almost like 7 million in Portugal of fans of Benfica, memberships, they pay. We are reach #1 in the world, 400,000 paid members, #1 in the world, after Bayern came and get the same number. We pay every month 12 euros, every member, to be part of the club. Then we have a lot of discounts with all the companies. And we have 50 million around the world of fans. And when you come to Africa, and me and Miguel have been traveling many countries in Africa, you see the huge base of fans, of people that like football. So I think it's the next step, and I'm not the special guy to speak on that, is how the clubs will engage those fans to the life of the clubs, to, okay, then buy the jerseys, buy the memberships, have discounts for that, for this, follow the teams, have special contacts of the teams on the locker rooms, on the training pitch. So these kind of strategies, and I invite you to go to Benfica to see the guys of the marketing and media there one day. They know how to do that, so you can engage the fans, so they can then spend the money with the clubs, and the clubs can grow up. And if you look to some small clubs in Portugal, that's what they started to do, not at the same, because Benfica, we have more than 120 years, so we are a very historic club, but it's the way. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your question. Amar, if I could start with you, how do you see the current sponsorship and commercial landscape in African football? As a European, I'm a little cautious in saying African football, because I know that Africa is a huge place, and countries are very different to one another. Whether you guide your answer towards Morocco or North Africa, or more generally across Africa, I'll leave you to decide. But how do you see the current climate for sponsorship and commercial development?
Thank you very much for the question. I think we would need to think about it in if we do thinking about the regional element and the evolution of a sponsorship and commercial rights, I would like to say that the US is very advanced, European is after that, and then maybe the Middle East, Africa are kind of catching up. The current landscape is still based on selling advertising space. It's all about the front of the jersey sponsors. How is your brand appear? And it's all about mass communication. I'm from Egypt originally, so when I travel in Egypt, I drive with a car, and I see a lot of billboards in the streets. That doesn't attract anybody's attention. So if you think about the commercial and sponsorship, and think about marketing and the evolution of marketing across any industries, forget about sports for a second, you would find that marketing have evolved in mature industries, i.e. telecom, financial services, tech, from a mass communication into personalization, into data-driven and authentic storytelling. Where do you guys see or think sports at from those three spectrums in Africa and North Africa? Is it in the first one? Probably yes. It's still in the mass communication and broadcasting rather than personalization. So we need to go, and equally as well, by the way, this is the way that the sponsorship packages are developed. So the package that we're selling, the product the right holders are selling, is advertising space. The second thing to explain the current landscape, the organizationally, those right holders, whether it's a football club or a federation or a league, are hiring calibers and people in the commercial teams. And by the way, many in the European as well. I don't want to just even restrict that to the North Africa. Many of them are hiring calibers to sell advertising space. They don't have knowledge about how to build an authentic story for their partners. What I mean by that, let me explain it in a little bit more details. And I'll give you a practical example of one of the brands that I've worked closely with, Red Bull Racing. We were a technology partner, Oracle, and we wanted to do a partnership, not a sponsorship. What I mean by partnership is the storytelling, the authentic story, and having our technology embedded within the whole ecosystem. So we asked Red Bull Racing, please hire somebody from a tech background, not from a sports and sponsorship background. I don't want somebody to come and tell me that, oh yeah, Oracle, we were going to give you a 30 signed cap from Max Verstappen or or Checo, cannot say Lewis Hamilton, or Checo. We were going to invite all your VIP customer into the lounge. This is still selling assets and advertising. What we want is somebody understand our technology, understand the need of the right holder, and to try to build that use cases and case studies. And we can give more examples about how could you do that. We've done that with the Premier League as well, SailGP, and there are so many examples, but I just want to be conscious about time as well. So I'll keep it there.
That's a really interesting answer, because some of you in the room may still think of sponsorship as a name on a shirt and some corporate hospitality, and if that works for you, then that's great. But I think you're absolutely right. This more collaborative approach to sponsorship, and perhaps we'll get back.
And it's
to
not.
that.
Sorry, just one word to. This is not sustainable, because even the sponsors become much more aware about the ROI. So they will gonna come, and again, you don't be happy that you're selling today all your actual inventory, because very soon those sponsors will gonna be asking, what the ROI you're giving to me? And they are failed to do that, most of them, that selling the advertising.
So I'm aware that we do have some students in the room. So when you talk about ROI, return on investment, for you working at, for example, Oracle, how would you measure ROI on a sponsorship?
So for Oracle, our objective, we were very clear. I was in the team that before even selecting to partnership with the Premier League or Red Bull Racing, the first thing that we did, what is our objective for that partnership that we want to do in sports? And they're clear. We wanted to build case studies of the power of Oracle technology to help sports brands on track and off track, on the pitch and off the pitch. How could we use the Oracle AI technology in order to deliver those use cases so we can sell it not only in sports, but we can sell it in retail, healthcare, telecom, FS. I used to do, when I was at Oracle a couple of years ago, I used to say, if Oracle are able to deliver that to help Max Verstappen win by a millisecond in an F1 race, or a football team to win a game, then we are able to help you, whether you're working on retail, on telco, and so on and so forth. So our objective was very much to develop case studies. So the ROI for us, how many case studies that we have built for those partners, and what is the amount of sales that we have driven in the back of that partnership.
Okay. David, you said that together you and your colleague had been around Africa visiting countries. So what's your assessment of what's happening right now? How is it for Africa?
Yeah, let me, because you asked return of investment of a sponsorship. So I return the question to you, this. How much is the return of investment when you build the tomorrow's hero of a country for a sponsorship? So this is our game change that me and Miguel, we did it. We started 8 years ago working on this. We've been in Africa, Ghana, Guinea-Conakry. You have 2 bigger projects in Ivory Coast, in Burkina, in Rwanda, Mozambique. We're going to open more. I cannot tell you everything. But what we discovered is that, okay, the old school model, a little bit like scouting. We were speaking about that. Okay, old school. We go there, we see the best players. There are 18 FIFA rules. Okay, now you can bring them. No, this is very old school, okay? It can work, but this is not how we do it. And Benfica, we are the best club in the world developing talent. Everybody knows that. So we decided that we need to go to the ground and work there. Like, I don't know how to say in English. You do this to your sleeves and you start working. It's harder, it takes more time, but when you go to the storytelling and you explain to the sponsorships that we don't want a sponsorship, we want a partner to build tomorrow's hero. And imagine that I tell this to a country, look, I'm going to build your national heroes. I'm going to help to develop players to your national teams. If I can bring with my academy 1, 2 players to go to the national team, you are connected to the heroes of tomorrow. So how strong is this communication? Okay, so, and why I'm on the technical side, why I need to know this, because if I get partners, I'm going to work better, I'm going to find more talent, I'm going to develop more players, and then I'm going to help my club in Lisbon with the players getting to my club. So what we started to understand is that this is a strategy that we can work with the sponsors and with partners to help us to build these academies around Africa and many countries. And then we even give a plus. Because, okay, I can develop the players. And how we do it in Benfica, I take my guys, my coaches to the ground and we live there. Stay there 1 year, 2, 3, 4. But we cannot do everything alone. And when you tell to the countries that you're going to develop also not only players, but you're going to develop local coaches, physiotherapists, psychologists, managing, all of the people that work around to an academy, to develop the academy, to grow the academy, you are sharing knowledge and you are giving extra to the countries that you are working with. So you need to have partners for this, because these are long-term projects, like we have on the athletes, long-term player development. It's the same on the project. Okay?
Okay. So when you're looking from the outside in, as someone from Portugal, what are you seeing in Africa? Where do you see opportunities and exciting new things happening? Are there particular fields or particular innovative developments that you think are really guiding the way for the rest of Africa?
Look, after Brazil, Brazil is #1 in the world exporting players. After you have Africa. Okay, so talent is everywhere. We used to say, where you have children, you have talent. You just need to create the environment to develop them. And this is true. We are also in India, so 1.3 billion, they're not expertise on football, but there's talent there everywhere. Of course, what are the problems we have in Africa? Most of us, we know some of the problems. Infrastructures, of course, is one of them. Nutrition is another one. So there are some particular specific problems that we need to try to solve on a step-by-step basis. We're not going to do everything on the same day, but I can say that facilities, the organization, is the biggest problem that we have to develop this kind of projects.
Ahmad?
I just want to touch on what Davide mentioned as well about the grassroots. I mean, again, this is, and I was going to always try to bring it back to the topic of the sponsorship and how to unlock. What Davide mentioned about here is a grassroots and how you identify talent. Arsene Wenger, I was attending one of his sessions. He mentioned one of the key things. He said that one of the biggest challenges in football is talent identification. It's more of a bigger problem than talent development, because identifying talent there's a lot of talent that goes in waste and nobody notices them. But once you find a talent and go through a Benfica academy, then they have a highly likely chance to make it to professional football because they are in the right pathway. So one of the things that we are doing is this card. Hopefully you can see. This is doing a very simple measurement for grassroots players to understand their skill sets: speed, short pass, and long pass. So this is something that we're doing with Benfica. We're doing it in other countries. So what's the connection with that with the sponsor? We will be implementing this program in Egypt. I cannot reveal the brand, with a brand who will going to be paying for all these activities, because their purpose is to identify talent within the country. They want to have a purpose-driven program. So this is a really good example of what I was talking about earlier, of how you build an authentic, credible story. One is benefiting the community by getting and identifying talent, helping a club by just identify, and Davide talk about even like kind of the recruitment and how the talent identification, which is, again, it's a very old model by having a coach try to see a 90-minute game. That if that player having a bad day, he would not going to be identified. But when you have this type of data-based and data-driven performances of a grassroots, that gives the scouts a different type of context. And you can have that branded, that card. So that's another element and another example of how you bring the sponsors and the partner to be part of your actual development and your objective as a club, but equally as well to deliver value to them.
There are some really interesting things, I think, happening in the world of sponsorship right now. Two of the deals that have caught my attention in recent years. The first one is Birdie's Shoes, who have sponsored the shirts, or which previously sponsored the shirts of Angel City. And 10% of contract value from that deal was allocated to female empowerment projects. So this wasn't just a name on a shirt of a women's football club. It was also an active attempt to try and change the way that women see themselves, improve their leadership and management skills, and promote equality. The other one, which is of a similar nature, is the WTA Saudi Arabian PIF example. If you've not seen this particular deal, so for the first time ever, the WTA will have a maternity scheme in place funded entirely by the Saudi Arabian government. And this, if you've not read about this, it's worth looking at, because it even extends to, for example, fertility treatment for female tennis players. So these are not names on shirts or logos on cars. These are living, breathing sponsorship deals. At that point, can I ask, do we have any questions from the audience? We've got one, a gentleman in the middle. I don't know if you've got a loud voice or if there are... Yeah, okay.
So I just want to tag along on what Amir said about the storytelling piece and developing a value promise to the sponsor. I would consider that more as a sales pitch if you're trying to close a deal. But in Africa, it's a different market. This is the reality of things. What is the return on investment to that sponsor that's going to be injecting some amount of money over a certain period of time, over 3 years or 4 years? What are they getting? How can they monetize on that storytelling value promise that the club is doing? So the thing is, in Africa, is the fan base. Soccer in general in Africa is the sports or the hobby of the poor people. If you look more into the demographics of the fans, what you find out, if you take as an example the leading clubs in Africa, you'll find that the majority of their fans are of the age of 18 to 24. And if you apply certain economical analysis to this, you'll find that most of these individuals with a purchase capacity that's very low. If you go more into details of this, they're not even a bank account holder. They don't even have a card. They don't even have a Visa card or a MasterCard, which limits the club to offer a variety of products that to their clients base to buy, because at the end of the day, a sponsorship agreement between a club and an entity, it's a win-win. The club will win financially, and then the sponsor is also expecting a certain return on investment over a certain period of time. And what goes along with it is that storytelling, is building something nice together, is co-branding those two brands and giving back to the community somehow, either, as you said, at the sports level, at the educational level, healthcare, you name it. But in Africa, it's different. Clubs are struggling to bring international sponsors into the market because everyone is looking for a market share.
Okay.
And I hope you get my message, right?
Yeah, I got your
All
message, and let me answer that question specifically. So there are different ways of monetizing your fan base. By the way, I'm from Africa. I grew up in Egypt. I lived in the UK for 22 years. So, and we are actually working right now with a few of the biggest clubs in Africa to exactly what you've just spoken about. There are two ways of monetizing your fan base. And I can give you many, many examples from my work at Spurs, but I will gonna specifically talk about the example you're talking about, which is a really, really interesting point. And again, it's about the opportunity, because there are 70% under the age of 30 of those consumers. And equally as well, as you mentioned, rightly so, they don't have that high purchasing power. However, if you think about a consumer brand, what is the single thing that they want to do? They want to reach to those consumers. What is the best channel for those brands to reach to consumers? TV, radio, and your favorite club. If I am a fan who is 15 years old or 16 years old, and Vodafone, Pepsi, I don't quote me on any of those brands, I'm just mentioning random brands. Their target audience is the Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They want to find an authentic story to go to them and say, we are investing in this community. We are delivering an authentic story with Club X and Y and Z. So giving them the channel to reach out to those fans, in itself, you can sell that. You don't have to necessarily all the time monetize the direct relationship with those younger fans, but you can sell those audiences. Football clubs can be the best and biggest media companies. What is Facebook is? They sell advertising space. Why? Because they come and say to advertiser, we will tell you the profile of who you're targeting, and they come to our platform to consume content. While they are coming to our platform to consume content, we will show your ad. Isn't that what football clubs is all about? Sometimes you come to the game, you are in the receptive, so you can show them something. But imagine if you are able to build a 360 view about all your fan base. And I have a very good, interesting case study about this in Spurs, but I'm going to try to keep it short. But imagine if you are able to build a full 360 view about your fan base for El Ahly, for El Wydad, for any club that you can imagine. How many brands will come to Wydad? I don't want to, again, I'm not expert in all the clubs, but basically if Al Ahly or Zamalek or Al Wydad or Al Rabat or Taraji, they have a full view about all their fans. What do you think the brands will going to be desperate for? They will going to go and pay money for them in order to give them access to those fans. Younger, even with the lower, because they have a product to sell to them.
Davide, do you have a view on this?
Well, I think was a little bit what I tried to tell on the other answer. We Benfica, we start kids when they are 3 years old, 4 years old. So we want them to be engaged with us because at 18, maybe they don't have the money, but at 25, 30, they will have money, they will have a job. At 40, they will have family, kids, and then they will bring their kids like here. So my father was a Benfica player, I'm a Benfica fan, my kids are Benfica fans, so, and it goes like this. Connecting, and because football is passion, is emotion, so we spend money irrational, $100, euros for a jersey sometimes, so this, it's crazy. And when our team is playing and it's the finals or World Cups and it's a country, well, we all know. So I think the brands, they play with that, yeah.
Can I just say, I really liked your question, and for me, there is something, because if you look at sponsorship around the world, it's really dictated by North American and European corporations. And particularly in Africa, I've done a lot of work in the Middle East where they're trying to attract inward investment, inward deals from places like North America. You then get forced to think and do as they think and do. And what I feel is there is a need for Africa to think about what's going to serve Africa better. You know, how do you set up deals? How do you measure the effectiveness of those deals? Maybe storytelling in the way that we know it is not relevant. It may be something culturally, politically, socially, psychologically, there could be something different. So I think that's a kind of question, or this is the kind of area where exploration is needed, and obviously Africans need to lead that discussion, not North American corporations. With due respect to random Western corporations like Vodafone and Coca-Cola, as you said. So I think that's a really interesting question.
And just to add one, the storytelling is just here representing the relevance. You have to be relevant. If you guys remember when Ronaldo, in a big press conference, he removed a can of, I wouldn't say the brand, and he put a bottle of water. That was not a relevance because that brand does not have a relevance in that context. So the storytelling here, what I mean, just to make sure that it's very clear, I'm not saying about creating story, about what is your relevance of your brand being part of that context, and you have to create it, and there are different ways of creating it. Sorry, I just wanted to
From my point of
Yes.
view, telling a story is really, really important.
Yeah.
And we're all from countries and cultures where storytelling is really, really important. And if you think about your favorite brand, whatever your favorite brand is, wherever it is from in the world, it tells you a story. So I think storytelling is really important still, but in an African context, what does that mean? And that's why I think your question was a good one. We are going to draw to a close fairly soon. I'm assuming that I will get a countdown on the screen in front of me when we're about to finish. So it hasn't started yet, so we're okay. We've talked about the move from almost a transactional view of sponsorship and commerce, where you sign a deal, you put a name on the shirt, and that's it, end of story, to a more partnership and relational type view of commercial development of sponsorship. What are some of the things, David, that you think you need to address in moving from a transaction to a relationship, certainly in an African context?
So it's a little bit what I explained in the beginning. So we want them to walk side by side with us. We want for them to understand that they are giving value to the people, and that when we leave or when we go, we leave something behind, and that they need to understand, well, at least in football and what we do, we need time. This is like an education process, like being to the school and to the university. They need to be partners with you for a long time so that we can have the return on investment and see what they gain for that. Because these kind of projects, you take 5 to 10 years easy. So everybody needs to understand that, because if I get a kid with 10 years old, I'm going to need 8 to 10 years for him to be a professional player, and then the brand to say that they helped to build this talent. We have stories of Ronaldo with the old brands, and also with Michael Jordan. They did big sponsorships when they were just a future promise, and then they hit the jackpot. And so this is storytelling. It happens, and it will happen again in the future. Ronaldo has a brand, I'm not going to say the name. They did a big contract in the past with him. Nobody knows him. And now it's the same contract. And he's making not so much money as he could, because the brand sponsored him. So, and this is our vision is this, is to start today for tomorrow, long-term partnerships, walk side by side, not on the front or in the back, walk side by side. This is our vision.
Amar?
I've just was thinking about this before the session. I'm gonna explain about what we did as well with some of the companies I work with. We would normally go for at least a 5 years deal, because it's a long-term investment, it's not a short-term investment. And what we was just asking, why would we do a multi-years, like more than 5 years? Because first year, you and the partner, you get to know each other. You just get to know what the value proposition, what the overlap between goals and objectives. Second year, you start identifying the key project that you can work with in order to deliver value. The third year, you've implemented those projects and you start getting the ROI. And then the third and fourth year, you continue returning and getting the return on investment. So those who are looking exactly, and this is a thing that within the African and North Africa, we need to think about long term. We need to move from a transactional into a partnership. The other thing that I need to think about is the 3 Ps: purpose, personalize, prove. If you're not able to do that. An interesting exercise just came to my mind, Simon. I do sometimes get speaking in the UK as well. So I do get into the classroom with the students. So I went to St. Mary University in the UK, and I showed them a slide of the main shirt sponsors of all the Premier League clubs, right? Including Emirates, including AIA at the time was for Spurs and many others. And I asked the students, can you tell me which sponsor belonged to each team? 70%, roughly 70% have identified the right sponsors, 70 to 80%. They know, right, AIA was Spurs, Arsenal, Emirates, and so on and so forth. I asked them a more interesting question. Can you tell me what those brands sell? Guess what was the percentage of the people get it right? Give a number, guess, what the percentage? You're very right, 20, 25 to 30% have only identified what that main sponsor are doing. So this is, I'm talking about the earlier point, it's not an advertising space that you just the people doesn't know. Again, when we were in Spurs, we went to say to the brands, and I was part of those meetings to try to sell a sponsorship. We say, oh, we have 250 million fans around the world. A tech-savvy sponsor will gonna ask us, what do you know about those 250 million? Can you access them? Oh, we got 25 in our social media channels. Who knows about those 25 million? So from 250 million, which is what Nielsen and the research company will tell you that perhaps Benfica and Sporting and other clubs, those are fans, and 25 million in the social media. But even those 25, does the sports clubs or the right holders knows anything about them? No, it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram that knows about them. So going back, going to answer your question, it has to be a long term. It has to be much more than just a short term and transactional. And it has to have that three things I mentioned: purpose, personalized, and proof in order to get the return of investment.
Thank you. Some questions. So we got one here.
And thank you for your useful insight. So my question is taking into consideration the specificities of a football club in Africa compared to those in Europe, where many face financial difficulties, including the major club in Africa. So should football clubs in Africa adopt a business model where the pursuit of immediate revenue take precedence, or it's more advantageous to develop strong partnership that prioritize mutual growth with company in the industry?
Short and sharp.
Short and sharp. I'll try my best, but this is really an interesting question because it's all about the landscape and the challenges that we're facing. So first thing that I was going to say, we need to separate sports from politics, right? And sometimes in the Middle East and North Africa, the sports are used for much more than just kind of a business industry. If a country, and I'm not talking about any specific country, I can talk about as well about Egypt, Morocco, and many other countries, they need to think about how we privatize those clubs so they become a separate entity and a brand, and how you transform those organizations to become appealing for foreign investment. The second thing so there is a big job, I'm just trying to say it in short and sharp as much as I possible, Simon. Sorry, I feel the pressure. But basically is that you need to think about the legislation and the federation and the leagues, what they need to do in order to structure the industry to become an appealing investment opportunities. And there is so much can be done. The second thing that clubs need to invest in data and digital infrastructure. There is a big opportunity there. If you invest, you are going to get the return on investment. And then the third element and the most important thing is how you create those entertainment products that you sell using the digital. This is a badge, was in the British Line rugby jersey. This is NFC enabled. So imagine that it's in the jersey. You tap it with your phone, get you into experiences. You can sell that. You can sell that to brands. You can sell it into commercial partners. I feel the pressure about the time, so I will leave it there. I'll leave it there.
I would like to go to Davide, and I would like to take more questions, but I'm getting serious pressure. What's that? People are hungry. Yeah, apparently people are hungry. So I've been told by the session manager that that's it. Our speakers are available for questions afterwards, but can I ask you to show your appreciation for their contribution?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.